Hello, welcome to a new video. In this video I would like to talk about my plans for my classic world for my stream series, talk about my plans for the upcoming weeks when it comes to streaming, and also do a world tour of my classic world. So if you've been keeping up with me, you might know that in the last stream I have played on the 0.28_01 version for the last time. However, I will not be playing on 0.30 in the next stream. That's because I've got something special planned for it, just like I've mentioned it in my last post. And the special plan is that I'll have some other people building in my classic world. Those people being Sabine56, Jaded, Steelcat, and Salinter. You might know all of these because they have made Legacy Plus content in the past. If you've been keeping up with Legacy Plus, you might know them. Additionally, Salinter has his Ultimate World series, and Soybean is making music. Some of his music has made it into Legacy Plus mod, and he also made some music specifically for the Legacy Plus mod, like the Astro music in FF Plus. Now, there may be a few questions that you might want to ask. Firstly, why have I decided to do it? And the answer is that I thought it would be interesting to have builds by other people in my world. Anyway, of course I haven't really told them what they should build. They are basically going to build whatever they want to, as long as it fits inside of a city. Next up, what am I going to be doing instead of playing Classic on my streams? And the answer is playing in-depth on a brand new world. We are currently seeing the world which I plan to use in my streams in the background. I've decided to create it in depth 2010-0128-2304 version, which is the last version which has got all of the debug chests. That way I've got access to all of the building blocks and just build with them, since I can have better builds this way. Otherwise I wouldn't be able to access blocks like bookshelves. Now, what are my plans for the in-depth world? I plan to use it as a base once I get to in-depth, because as you may know, I've been playing Classic until now. However, there are only like finitely many things that I can do in a finite world, so at some point I plan to update and go further with the versions. And so I plan to import the Classic world into an in-depth world along with the in-depth world, and I plan to use the in-depth world as my base for I don't know for how long. It might be temporary, who knows. I haven't planned that far out yet, but I don't really know when will I return to the Classic world or when will I move on to in-depth. Only time will tell. Anyway, to sum things up, my plans for my worlds are that in playing Classic until now I'm taking a break and I'm going to start playing in-depth. Once I'm done with in-depth, I'm going to return to Classic world, and once I'm done with the Classic world, I'm going to move on to in-depth. Who knows when will that be? But anyway, I think I've now said everything that I wanted to say, so now it's time to move on to the World Tour. This will be part 1 of the World Tour because the world is still unfinished. Part 2 will be once it's finished, or maybe sooner, this depending on how I feel. Anyway, also I'm currently in Classic Plus, not in Classic, because I've managed to port this world into Classic Plus to make exploring it easier. Anyway, let's get started. My plan is for this to be a kind of quick world tour without getting into too many details. Anyway, as you can see, I'm currently in the area which I've built in version 0.0.15a, which is the version that I've started in, and I'm currently at the lighthouse, which was suggested to me by Neon Light. I think it's quite a cool build, and around me I've got some path that leads to it and some benches. Nothing particularly interesting, with a bridge along with a beach with some beach umbrellas and some beach chairs, all made out of wood since there weren't that many blocks back then. Walking down this path I reach several builds. There is the apartment complex, which has got some various apartments. Well, I say various, but all of these are the same. It also has a second floor which you can reach using this staircase. That is more of the same. And in the back we can see some trash containers for that word, and you also have a tunnel which leads over to the beach area. Also there are some fireplaces. Next up there is this parking lot with some custom trees, which I think I've started adding to this world after I've built these 5 houses, which, if I remember correctly, were built in the first 2 streams. I think this was the first house that I built. It's rather basic, as you can see, which is understandable considering the version, I'd say. All of these are rather sparsely decorated, I'd say. This one is rather nice, or I should say square one, although it doesn't have that much bed space. Sort of in the bedroom area, attic bedroom. I think this is the biggest house that I've built in the first screen. It actually has got 2 floors, making it more usable. But just like the other 3 houses, it doesn't have any bathroom. I have also used leaves as roof for this house. That's to make it more interesting and also to let some light in so the grass doesn't decay. Anyway, next up we go behind the house, see some custom trees, benches and a pedestrian bridge which leads over to a park. It also goes above some water with some coral reefs and seagrass, which I've added after the colored wool was added, which was, for me, I first had it once I reached version 0.0.23a_wool1. Of course the wool was added before that, but that was the first version that I've played in this world with wool. This underwater area is actually something that I dug up because originally it was, I think, about only 1 or 2 blocks deep, and I've also widened it to make it look like the ship can actually fit through here. But anyway, I went to the park. As you can see, it's got quite a lot of custom trees and one very large custom tree. I think it's quite a nice area, but I was just looking around and noticed that I don't think there are any saplings. I feel like I've placed all of them, but now there are any. Or am I misremembering things? Doesn't matter. I think the park is a nice area, but would be much better if it had flowers in it. But I'm not going to add any flowers to it since it was made in a version which didn't have any flowers. So I'm not going to change it. Next up, we've got a convenience store with a parking lot in the front. There isn't much to see on the inside, just some shelves, cash register, and some storage area, which leads over to the back where I got some fresh containers. But there is an actually interesting thing behind the convenience store, which is this satellite dish observatory, which I think is quite a nice build since it was very difficult to build, because it was difficult to get the shades just right, especially with this satellite which is kind of tilted downwards. Anyway, we've got a very big fence around it since this is a government property, so we want to keep the people outside. And over here we got a building where the researchers stay and just process the data, so we got a room where they can rest, bathroom, computer room, and a server room where all the data is stored, something like that. I've never really been in a place like this, so this is just how I imagine it might be. Next up is the statue, which is the very first thing that I've built in this world. The reason why I decided to build the statue first is to have the first build be something interesting. So this statue is kind of a center point of this world, since this is where everything started. This is where I first built, and everything around me kind of was added onto it. Next up is the ship, which I'd say turned out quite well despite the limitations in block palette. This was also built before I had access to sponges, so when I was clearing out this area I had to use like blocks to replace all of the water and then clear them away, which I had to do twice because I accidentally flooded the ship after I had already cleared out the water out of it. There's also, if we go up, there's also the crow's nest along with a flag made out of cobblestone and dirt since I didn't have wool, and the captain's quarters. Simple design, but I'd say it's nice. And the last part of the city, which was built in 0.0.15.8, is this bridge, which I wouldn't say is particularly interesting, but I'm not gonna show it. Anyway, this bridge brings us onto the next part of the city, which was built in 0.0.19.8_06. Next up, I would like to talk about the family houses, which I've built in version 0.0.19.8_06. This version introduced two new blocks, those being the sponge block and the glass block, both of which I've used in my builds that I've made in this version. The introduction of these two new blocks meant that there wasn't enough space in the bar for these blocks, and this version didn't have any inventory, which meant that the cobblestone and the sand blocks weren't available in this version. You couldn't really build with them, unless you of course modified the game, so I couldn't really build with them. I mean, as you can see, these houses aren't remarkably interesting, so I won't really go into too many details about them, since they kind of follow the same template on the inside. Here you've got a kitchen, a dining room, a bathroom, and most of these houses have got a balcony. All of these houses have got some bedrooms. We got like a master bedroom, which is meant for the parents, and some bedrooms for the kids. Of course, each of these houses has got like a different shape and different size. However, I don't think this really warrants talking about them on there or going into too many details about them. Each of the houses also have a garden. These houses have got sheds in them so that people can work in them. This one also has a swing, and this one has a gazebo, for which I've just noticed that I need to fix the roof. The blocks shouldn't be here. And these two houses also have a driveway each. And these two houses over here have got a garage where the owners can also work on something. So you got like a work table or something like that. I've also built these two stands where I can use the sponges for sort of signs. I like to imagine that the dots sort of represent some small text that I can't really make using full blocks. I like to imagine that these are, for example, like a hot dog stand and a speaker stand or something like that. I think they are nice. The last thing that I've decided to build in this version is a construction site. There are two reasons why I decided to build this. First being that in the future I would like to have some large office buildings in this world, and so like moved on to Innovative, but I couldn't really build this any in Classic due to the world height limitation. So instead I decided to kind of imply that a large office building is being built, and the second reason is because I thought that building a construction site would be simple in terms of the materials used, because I could just use stone for the frame, some wood for the scaffolding and the fence around the construction site, and I've also used some sponges and stone for the construction equipment. The reason why I've chosen sponges is because it's the only yellow block that was available in this version. I've also built this crane because I thought it would be cool, and I've also added some materials lying around a truck which looks terrible. It's a building for the workers and some water bodies. I'd say this build turned out quite well, especially since I've added this crane. After I was done with the construction site, I moved on to version 0.0.23a_01, which gave me access to color blocks. As such, I decided to build this playground where you got some swings, some slides, and some other stuff. There's also this sort of bar next to the beach area, and some cabins for changing clothes. I also built these beach umbrellas on the beach along with some beach towels of various colors and designs. I've also added some corals and seaweed to the underwater area around the ship in order to try and make it a bit more interesting, and I'd say it turned out quite well, especially when you are swimming around underground. I quite like how they are sort of densely packed. I think they look quite good like this. Of course, all of these corals weren't built in one sitting. Instead, I kept adding more and more outside of streams until I filled up this whole area. Also, I'm still thinking about whether or not I want to expand them to sort of the rest of the lake, or whatever you'd call it. Another thing that I've built in this version is this theme park, which I've built off-stream since it included building some difficult shapes like this tent, a Ferris wheel, or this roller coaster, which I feel like would be annoying to build on stream. I'd say it's quite a nice area. And also, as for this roller coaster, I believe should be visible in future versions once rails get added. I plan to add rails to this in the beta version that adds the power trails. And also this fence was added later on. It wasn't originally here when I first built this. The first wall that I built in this version is this hotel, which, as you can see, is relatively big. And if we go inside, the First thing that we'll see is a lobby with some sofas, reception. Over here is a gym where people can exercise. The reason why I've used wall blocks in the ceiling is because they used to look like lights back then, because they get different texture. Over here are, well, is a dining hall where people can go to eat breakfast, dinner, lunch, and there's a kitchen with a freezer in the back, and on the other side is like the laundry room where the staff can wash the pizza and stuff. There are some bathrooms, I'd say particularly interesting, and if we go upstairs, we've got a large balcony with a bar and a seating area. We go opposite of that, there is a hallway which leads over to some rooms of various sizes. The largest one being over here. Oh, all of these rooms have got access to a balcony, and of course have a bathroom and other various things. Over here are some staff rooms, got like a storage area and a broom closet, and also some elevators. And if we go upstairs, there are of course more rooms, but these rooms do not have access to a balcony. One thing that I forgot to mention is the skylight, which I've added so that there will be more light in the lobby, and so that I could have the glass over there as well. Anyway, we go over here, we can get to the roof, where I've got some lava and water in case I wanted to use them in builds, which brings me on to the lava and water towers, which you might have noticed are placed around my world. The way that I've gotten them is using a glitch which was present in some of the versions before the survival test versions. I don't remember exactly which version this glitch appears. The way it works is basically that if you place a gravity block, this is currently disabled, but if you place a gravity block above a liquid block, the liquid block will replace the gravity block, but one could update it so you just have a water block in this case. But if there was lava below, I place the sand here, the sand would just be replaced by the lava, and the lava wouldn't spread. And so, using this glitch, I've made these towers so that I could use the liquids in the future, so that I could use them in higher places. After I finished the hotel, I added some more stuff to this area. After I finished the hotel, I added some more things to this area, like this greenhouse, in which you got some plants of various sizes, and also some large mushrooms. I also had some small mushrooms in this area, but these eventually started to decay in light, so they just disappeared. Or I'd say it's quite a nice area. I should probably get rid of these trees which grew from these saplings. And also, as you saw, I added some parking lots, one for the greenhouse and one for the hotel. This is intended for the guests and the staff. I've also added a lot of custom trees. It's basically like a park that is around the greenhouse, since I've added some various paths and benches so that you can just relax here and walk around. I've also added a gazebo and another large custom tree. And I can't forget about the beach area beyond the hotel, which is intended for the guests. As you can see, we've got some beach umbrellas, some floats, some sand sculptures. I have to mention that this is like a pyramid, cathedral, castle, and a sphinx. After I finished the greenhouse, I built this gallery in the brutalist architecture style. The reason why I decided to use this style is because I felt it fit in with the whole Minecraft, because the buildings in this architecture style are kind of made of masses, which are sort of large shapes, at least from what I know. So I felt like it would fit with the simplicity of old Minecraft, since brutalism mostly uses like concrete, like uses background concrete, and I felt like stone kind of looks like concrete, so I decided to use it to make this build. Anyway, this is the sort of shape I came up with for this build. The brutalist gallery was actually built in a stream, and I managed to finish it in that stream. And so at the end of that stream, I decided to start working on the monorail tracks, which will sort of serve as the public transport of the city. Of course, conventional rail is better than monorail, but I felt like it would be cooler for the city, plus I feel like the conventional rail wouldn't quite fit in Minecraft due to the way just felt like it wouldn't fit into like size and stuff. It's kind of hard to explain like this. After I finished the monorail tracks in their current form, I added 2 stations. One over here, which is kind of colorful, and also has a tiny house underneath, which was inspired by some videos I saw on the internet. As you can see over here, we got a kitchen with a dining room, bathroom, and a sort of bedroom area at the top with some storage space. And there's also this station, which is made out of more natural looking materials. I decided that this station would be supported by anything pillars, since I thought that would look kind of interesting. Later on, I've also added these trees around it as decorations. Eventually, I plan to add 2 more monorail stations. One would be over there, and it would be kind of a main monorail station, and it would have sort of monorail tracks leading in different directions once I get to F. And the other one will be over there, and I haven't yet decided how it will be, so that is something to do in the future. One thing that I've forgotten to say is that these stations were built in the version 0.28_01, which you might have been able to tell due to the fact that I've used the iron and gold blocks, so I couldn't have built it in 0.23. Anyway, another thing that I built in this version is this lighthouse. The reason why I decided to build this is because I wanted to have a lighthouse which has got an actual light in form of the lava, which I got there using the block which I've used to build these towers. Basically, I first raised the lava to the height limit, and move on to the next version and build this lighthouse. The reason why I've built this out of bricks and iron is instead of wool. The reason why I've built it out of bricks and iron instead of red and white wool is so it doesn't catch on fire. It's a safety measure. I don't really know if it would catch on fire if it was out of wool, but it's better to be safe than sorry. Next up is the town hall, which has got 3 floors. The first floor is intended for the people who want to do some paperwork. For example, you might want to renew your driving license, so you walk inside and maybe you talk to the person at the information desk, and you get yourself a ticket with a number, after which you wait on the bench until you get called, after which you get called into one of these rooms. Also these rooms are pretty much the same. Some of these are different, like this one, which is divided into 2 parts. Maybe you get like your ID, so you talk to the official, then you get to go to this room where they take your photo. The flaw of this build is that you can't really access the rooms behind the glass where the staff is. In here you can see got some plants, some filing cabinets, staff is the computers, and more storage space for documents, filing cabinets, water fountain and such. I've also added some mushrooms on the inside because in this version mushrooms decayed in the light but didn't decay on stone when in dark. Anyway, here are the stairs that lead to the second floor. In the second floor we got some bathrooms for women and for men. As you can see, I decided to add some water to these sinks, which caused me some troubles because I was being careless. But that we got some storage rooms, like 2 storage rooms, a staff room where the staff can like eat their lunch or something. There is also an unused room because I couldn't really think of what to use it for. I might add something in the future. More storage space, a room closet, and some storage space for furniture because I couldn't really think of a use for this room. And if we go to the top floor, we got some offices. There is the mayor's office, which has got an entrance to the balcony, so we can look outside. There are also some sofas, or if the mayor wants to accept some guests. Next to the mayor's office is like the assistant's office. There are also some other offices on this floor, some offices for 3 people, and some offices. And on the other side is a meeting room, on a table, and a projector. I'd say there isn't much to talk about on the inside, so let's take a look at the outside. As you can see, for the walls I've used several materials. The same goes for the roof, where I decided to make a rainbow roof. Thought it looked kinda nice. I've also added a parking lot and a small park-like area on the outside. Then we got some paths so we can walk around the town hall, and also some sculptures to admire. I think they look kinda nice. Next up is the shooting range, which I built in the second to last stream. It was built in version 0.28_01, because this is the last version in which you could shoot arrows in creative. I can show this in Classic Plus because in this mode you can shoot explosive arrows with tab, but those don't cause any damage here because I disabled that. I decided it would be an interesting idea to use the build to shoot arrows in creative. Also compare how the arrows work in future version. But aside from that, I'd say that there isn't really anything interesting to this build. It's just a simple box. Aside from that, I've also built a botanist shop in that stream, which is for selling plants and mushrooms and other stuff related to plants. So on the inside we got some small mushrooms and flowers. And if we go to the back, we got some large trees that people can climb. And if we go onto the roof, we've got a small garden with some flowers and trees and bench to sit on. And of course a parking lot. And last but not least is the build which I've worked on in the last stream, which is a bank. If we walk on the inside, you'll see here a few things. On the left, we got a room with some safety boxes where the customers can store their important items if they don't have a safe at home. Over here we got like a small space for the staff member who takes care of this. So if you want to store something here or withdraw something, just walk here, talk to them, and they take you over here. On the opposite side we got some space for the bank tellers, where you can sort of walk up to them and maybe withdraw money or deposit money. Over here we got a staff room on which you can access this place, some computers with the place. And if we go to the second floor, we got some offices where the more important people are accepted. So in the middle, I'd like to imagine is the manager's office, where they can, for example, access the accepted representatives from like some important companies who might want to open an account or something like that. And over here might be the assistants of the manager, who maybe also accept some important customers, but not as important. Maybe for when someone wants to make a investment account to buy stocks and such. At least that's what I like to imagine. And if we go to the first floor again, we got this thing, the entrance to the vault, which is the reason why I've decided to build this thing, because the idea of this build is that I plan to import this world into InfDev, and so I decided to store some valuable blocks in this world to use in the future, and as such I plan to use this vault to store these things. And so I've decided to build this bank as an entrance to the vault. That way I actually have to put an effort into building a nice looking entrance and also making a nice looking vault, which I will decorate in the future. That way I kind of deserve the valuables that will be stored on the inside, because I feel like if I just made a big room with valuables inside, that would be kind of too cheaty. Of course this is still kind of cheaty, but I'd say not that much. I've also added these walls for my world. The reason why I've added these is because, as you might remember, the classic walls use the Berlin lines, which means that you can have some steep cliffs. And so I've added these walls to make it look like they are holding back the terrain behind the soil, so it just doesn't spill into the water. And I can't of course forget about the roads which I've added to this world that connect the various builds that I have worked on. Anyway, with that I have said everything that I wanted to say. Of course, if you still have any questions, then feel free to ask them in the comments below. And in the meantime, I will finish off this video by flying around this world to show it a bit more. And with that, I'll see you in the next one.